Fear can unite a community, pushing people to band together against a common threat. But sometimes that same fear twists into something far darker. Today, we're diving into cases of mass hysteria, where entire towns or regions were swept up in a wave of panic that spread faster than any disease. In each instance, fear itself became as dangerous as any crime, leading neighbors to turn on each other, medical systems to buckle under bizarre symptoms, or entire societies to spiral into chaos. Stay with me until the end, because one of these events escalated so quickly that even the government became paralyzed, unsure how to calm the public. If you love deep dives into true crime and unexplained mysteries, subscribe now so you don't miss next Saturday's episode, where we cover real-life conspiracies once dismissed as paranoia, only to be proven true years later. Imagine a city street in Strasbourg, France, during the hot summer of 1518. A woman named Frau Troffea steps onto the cobblestones and begins dancing. No music, no festival, just dancing. It doesn't stop. Hours turn into days, her feet bleeding, her body trembling, yet she cannot break free from the relentless urge to dance. Strangely, people gather not to watch, but to join. Within a week, dozens are dancing. By the end of the month, some sources claim the number soared into the hundreds. Local authorities are baffled. Physicians label it hot blood, a bodily imbalance compelling people to dance. The city council tries sending them to special stages, hoping that playing music might let them dance out the mania. Instead, the situation worsens. Exhaustion, dehydration, and heart attacks claim lives on the dance floor. Eyewitnesses describe people collapsing mid-step only to rise moments later and continue the frenzied dancing. The terrifying question remains, why? Some historians suggest ergot poisoning from mouldy rye bread, which can induce hallucinations. Others argue mass hysteria, triggered by stress from famine, disease, and social unrest. Records indicate that the region suffered repeated hardships that year, possibly fueling communal anxiety. In the chaos, a single dancing figure became a bizarre collective release valve. Yet as quickly as it began, the dancing plague eventually ended. People simply stopped. No official explanation was ever confirmed. All that remained were stories of unstoppable dancing and the haunting memory of those who literally danced themselves to death. In January 1962, a boarding school for girls in Kashasha, near Lake Victoria in what is now Tanzania, became the epicenter of one of the strangest epidemics ever recorded: laughter. It began innocently enough. 3 students started giggling uncontrollably in class. But the laughter didn't subside, it spread. Soon, multiple students were doubled over, tears streaming down their faces, unable to stop convulsing with laughter. Teachers scolded them at first, believing it was childish mischief, until they, too, reported feeling uncontrollable mirth. Within weeks, the entire school was forced to close. The laughter spread outward into nearby villages. Some people laughed so hard they experienced breathing difficulties, fainted, or developed rashes. Others reported intense crying, headaches, or random fits of screaming. Yet medical exams found nothing physiologically wrong. Officials tried to quarantine the area, suspecting some unknown virus, but every test came back negative. No parasites, no toxins, no infection. Psychologists labeled it a classic case of mass psychogenic illness, when stress and anxiety manifest as physical symptoms in a group. Tanzania had recently gained independence, and the local population faced significant social upheavals. The theory goes that the girls, under new pressures, unleashed their stress in a chain reaction of contagious laughter. It took nearly 18 months for the phenomenon to fizzle out entirely, leaving researchers scratching their heads. Even in the records of mass hysteria, a laughter epidemic stands out as both surreal and surprisingly destructive, shutting down entire schools and crippling communities that found their daily lives overtaken by fits of uncontrollable giggling. No discussion of mass hysteria is complete without the Salem witch trials of 1692. Though centuries have passed, the events in colonial Massachusetts remain a cautionary tale of how quickly communal fear can turn lethal. It began with a small group of young girls exhibiting strange convulsive fits, accusing local women of afflicting them with dark magic. The Puritan community, deeply religious and prone to seeing the devil's hand in misfortune, latched onto these accusations. Over the next few months, neighbours turned on each other. Ordinary disputes over land boundaries or unpaid debts were reframed as evidence of witchcraft. Women, and some men, found themselves jailed because they owned a slightly unusual item or had a petty feud with an accuser. The paranoia fed upon itself, each accusation breeding more fear, each arrest breeding more suspicion. Courts convened in a frenzy of confessions and testimonies from alleged victims who claimed they saw spectral images or were attacked by invisible forces. By the time Governor Phipps intervened, over 200 people stood accused and 20 had been executed. Countless others languished in prison, their reputations destroyed. Eventually, the hysteria burned out, with some leaders publicly admitting they'd made grievous mistakes. The legacy of Salem endures because it exemplifies mass hysteria fueled by a potent mix of religious fervor, personal grudges, and social stress. Modern historians see it as a chilling demonstration of how fear and suspicion, when left unchecked, can transform a peaceful society into a theatre of terror. In the summer of 1944, residents of Mattoon, Illinois, reported a string of bizarre nighttime attacks by a mysterious assailant they dubbed the Mad Gasser. People awakened to a sickly, sweet odor that left them nauseated or paralyzed. Some claimed they saw a tall figure fleeing their yards. Headlines spurred fear, and soon dozens of similar reports flooded local police. A hissing sound at windows, footprints under bedroom sills, stinging fumes that caused coughing and dizziness. Yet not a single person was seriously harmed or hospitalized for extended periods. Physical evidence was scarce. No footprints, no chemical residues. Police initially took it seriously but grew skeptical after repeated false alarms. Some townspeople insisted they caught glimpses of the gasser in dark alleys, while others described a man wearing dark clothing and carrying a spray gun. Investigations turned up no suspect, no credible lead. Eventually, the authorities concluded it was mass hysteria triggered by wartime stress, local rumors, and sensational media coverage. Though official records never confirmed any real mad gasser, the incident left a permanent mark on Mattoon. Neighbors locked doors at dusk, and families slept in shifts to watch for intruders. Even decades later, older residents recall the tension that gripped the town. Analysts cite it as a textbook example of collective anxiety escalating into vivid, shared delusions, fueled by just enough unexplained incidents to keep the panic alive. Whether a real prowler existed or not, fear itself had become the gasser's best weapon. From dancing until collapse in 15th century Strasbourg, to Salem's lethal witch trials, to entire towns paralyzed by laughter or mysterious gassers, these events show how mass hysteria can grip a community, overshadow reason and leave lasting scars. In each case, stressors, be they social, religious or environmental, primed people to interpret random occurrences as signs of something darker, something supernatural or sinister. And once that collective fear takes hold, it spreads like wildfire, unstoppable by mere logic. Which of these incidents disturbs you the most? The horrifying weight loss and heart attacks of the dancing plague, or the tragic executions of presumed witches in Salem? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this extended deep dive, subscribe now so you don't miss next Saturday's episode, where we explore real-life conspiracies once dismissed as pure paranoia, only to be proven shockingly true years later. And always remember, sometimes the greatest threat isn't a monster lurking in the shadows. It's the fear we conjure up in our own minds, feeding upon itself until no one is safe from its reach. Thank you for watching. See you in the next investigation.